Our chop, make a chop attitude to governance, now what is spoil Nigeria reach today. Refineries of quick fixing. NNPC recently signed an agreement with Daewoo Construction Nigeria Limited for the rehabilitation of the Kaduna refinery in what was described as a proposed quick fix initiative expected to restore the refinery to a minimum of 60% of its capacity by the fourth quarter of 2024 at a cost of $740.6 million. Oh boy, see million, see money. NNPC claimed that the last time this refinery was maintained, or what they call turnaround maintenance, was 15 years ago. Even a same refinery with refining capacity of 110,000 barrels per day has not produced any fuel for years. But we all know recently recorded a loss of 22.9 billion naira in 2021. You are not working, just a chop money. Even though we agree that restoring the Warrior and Kaduna refinery back to its operation will guarantee energy security for the country and reduce our dependence on imported petroleum products, also reduce pressure on forests, guarantee fuel supply, eradicate long queues in our filling station, and end this debate about should there be subsidy or not. But I want to ask, is it quick fix that is needed for a refinery that has not been functional or maintained for 15 years, or a complete overhaul, rehabilitation, and revamping? What is the working capacity of the nitrogen plant in Kaduna refinery? At least Warri own, we know say not even get. To at least to guarantee preservation of the equipment, since almost all the equipment go down corrode, including the storage tanks and the pipelines within the refinery. Even the power plant in the refinery has not been working. As we all know, say, now PHCN, they power the refinery. When PHCN on their own, they use generator on their own office. Nigeria, our own DM motherland. If you are quick fixing a 110,000 barrel refinery at the cost of $740 million, how much do you need to build an entirely new refinery of such capacity? We like to spend money uselessly here. Is Daewoo a refinery construction or maintenance company where they don't build refinery before, where they don't maintain one before? What happened to the original builders of this refinery? Also, since Kaduna no get seaports that we can use VLCC, large vessels to carry crude to, how NNPC want to transport crude from the Niger Delta to Kaduna if not be pipeline? What is the operational capacity or integrity of this pipeline to determine if they can still carry crude to the refinery? Considering the fact that the pipeline, having been operational for years, would have been corroded by water, insecurity, and vandalism. Was any integrity test conducted on the pipeline? And what is the outcome of this integrity test? What is the value of the contract for repairing, overhauling, revamping, or quick fixing the said pipeline and storage facility, if at all? What alternative means, if any, is NNPC going to use to transport crude from Niger Delta to Kaduna, if not pipeline? Why is Nigeria building gas pipeline to Europe if pipelines are no longer necessary? Anyway, hope this would end up as the case of the Omoku power plant that was built and commissioned by Odili and Obasanjo, if you can remember those days, only for them to discover on the day of commissioning that there was no gas pipeline built and connected to the power plant that will gas the power plant to power it. We even hear say that night they used generator to take commission, and Omoku people sleep for darkness even though they had a power plant. How do you award a contract to quickly fix a refinery when never worked for years to people when never build or repair refinery before? And yet, also no contract to fix the pipelines when we carry crude go the refinery. Would they think at all for this country? Anyway, I hope this quick fix no be last minute cleaning up for some people in government, now. I will therefore advocate that whilst we are debating about the political parties and their candidates, or my thief is better than your thief, we should not lose sight of the facts of the happenings around government ministries, parastatals, and agency. We should consistently scrutinize the activities and seek answers to pertinent questions concerning any contract awarded at this time. As this time usually is a quick cleanup for certain persons. We know quick fix has never fixed anything. So hope they are not quick fixing this money into their pocket. Remember, if you remove your eyes from government activities at this critical time, you'll be shocked to realize after the election that you not only meet an empty treasury, even the treasury box, somebody don't whisk them away. That's all time will permit us to take for today. But for previous episodes, just follow us on all our social media platforms shown on your screen, and there are loads of them there. And like we say in law, you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It will fall like a pack of cards. So even those stealing and destroying our pipelines are part of the general problem of Nigeria. So report pipeline vandalism. See you next week.
Welcome to another edition of What's Your Take, the weekly news program that looks at all the major big stories of the previous week and analyzes them for the benefit of all well-meaning Nigerians and all Nigerians from all walks of life. Well, it's been another hectic week. As we know, we're in high political season, and this is the time where any and everybody has something to do with the political space. So we'll start this morning a bit on a lighter note. One of the catchphrases in Nigerian lexicon today, we heard this story about a wife who called her husband on the way home and said, "Honey, kindly buy me some naira on the way home." I'm sure you are used to the fact that wives call husbands to buy loaves of bread, buy recharge cards, buy some milk, but never before have you heard anybody asking you to buy some naira. But that's where we are in Nigeria today. We're buying naira. The very money that we put in the bank, we have to buy it to get it back out in our pockets, which is not a very good state of affairs, but that's where we find ourselves even this morning. And that brings me to President Buhari's promise last week, Monday, right here on the show. We talked about the fact that President Buhari promised in 7 days to resolve the crisis. Here we are 7 days later, and we still have no money. There's still queues in all the ATMs. My newscaster is with us here this morning, Yetunde Afolabi. Yetunde, how are you this morning?
Good morning, Dayo. I'm very well, thank you.
Very, very good. Do you remember President Buhari's promise last week? You were the one who read it to us and said he promised that 7 days he would resolve the issue. Do you remember that promise?
Of course I do.
Very good. And is it resolved? Did you still see queues at the ATMs, or is it that things have improved now? Do people have money in their pockets?
As of this morning, no.
As of this morning, we're all still cashless.
Yes, we are.
Very good. All right. Anyway, we will now go to Yetunde to start telling us some of the stories we're going to look at and invite our guests to analyze those stories with us so that we know what Nigeria at large is thinking about what's going on here. So over to you, Yetunde.
Ban on old naira notes. Supreme Court halts February 10 deadline. Council of States asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to print more new naira notes or recirculate old ones. CBN, NSPMC are sure of capacity to print naira notes. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court of Nigeria entered an interim order against the Central Bank of Nigeria, banning the bank from going ahead with its February 10 deadline for the end of use of the old naira notes. The injunction was issued based on a lawsuit filed by the governors of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara states as a result of the hardship being experienced by the citizens of their respective states from the unavailability of the new notes. The order will subsist until February 15, at which time the court will revisit the matter. Meanwhile, at a meeting held in Abuja on Friday, the Council of State expressed support for the Naira redesign policy of the CBN, but asked Governor Godwin Emefiele to make new Naira notes available or recirculate old ones to ease the suffering of Nigerians. In a related matter, the Supreme Court has instructed Nigerians to stop attacking judgments. In the wake of recent judgments by the Apex Court, in which aspirants for senatorial seats in Akwa Ibom and Yobe states who did not participate in their party primaries were declared to be the bona fide candidates of their parties for the elections, leading to public outcry and criticism of the court. The Supreme Court has asked Nigerians to stop maligning the revered institution. The court went on to say that if political parties fail to organize themselves well by managing their internal wrangling maturely and choose to take themselves before the court, the judges are duty-bound to adjudicate in accordance with the provisions of the law and not the dictates of any individual. Some legal experts, however, are of the opinion that the Supreme Court, being one of the institutions of democracy, and judgments are subject to public scrutiny and should therefore not seek to gag the public in criticizing its decisions. Our next big story is about measures Lagos State is putting in place to give succor to its most vulnerable residents experiencing hardship from fuel and Naira shortages. Worried by the challenge some Lagosians, especially the vulnerable and less privileged, are facing currently as a result of Naira and fuel scarcity in the country, Governor Sanwo-Olu stated that the state government will roll out food packs and health relief packages beginning Monday the 13th of February. The governor also slashed to 50% the fare on state-owned buses, ferries, lag ride, and other public transport, extending this discount indefinitely from the initial period of 1 week. Government shuts all Nigerian universities, orders students to go home from February 22nd to March 14th. Citing security concerns, the federal government shut all universities across the country and ordered students to go home for the period. Hoodlums unleash attacks on Labour Party campaign in Lagos. Hoodlums attacked the presidential campaign rally of the Labour Party held in Lagos on Saturday, leading to 1 death and numerous persons injured. The Labour Party presidential candidate, Peter Obi, was also accused of gifting 2 billion naira to churches through the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN.
For giving us the big stories of the past week. And before we go on break, I just want to bring up the fact that the earthquake in Turkey, we need to commiserate with the people of Turkey and the people of Syria who have suffered from the effects of a devastating earthquake. In this part of the world, we're relatively fortunate that we don't experience such things. But once upon a time, I lived in the earthquake belt, and I've actually been involved in at least 2 major earthquakes. And I tell you, there's nothing scarier. The ground shakes, the buildings sway, and it's as if the entire world is going to come screeching to a halt. There's nothing like it, and the effects can be devastating. So our hearts go out to the people of Turkey and Syria, and we offer our condolences and sympathies to the people of those countries. Back home here, there's also an incident at Chrisland School in Okwebi, Ikeja, that's also quite sad and tragic, in which a 12-year-old student lost her life under questionable circumstances last week at a sporting event that the school held at an outside stadium. Investigations are still underway as to what may have been responsible for the child losing her life, but we offer our condolences to the family, and we pray that the government does this investigation and puts to bed whatever may have been responsible for that poor child's untimely death. All right, that's it. We shall take a break now, and when we come back, my guests will be joining me to take a look at these stories, take a deep dive into these stories, and discuss them in depth. Don't go away. Joining me to give us her take on the big stories of last week is Simisola Adeyemi, an entrepreneur who runs a catering outfit in the Surulere area of Lagos. Welcome to the show, Simisola.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here. Good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Also with us in the studio today to give his take on the big stories that made the headlines last week is Demola Afolabi, an entrepreneur and company director in Ikeja, Lagos. Thank you for joining us this morning, Demola.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. Let's start with you, Simisola. What's your take on this whole Naira redesign policy? This whole thing that has seen us queuing in front of ATMs and struggling to get our own money out of the banks that we worked hard to earn and we have put away for safekeeping, and now we can't access it. How do you see this whole thing?
Well, it's a bit sad. Great idea, wrong timing, wrong strategy. It's very, very unplanned, and it's taking a very great toll on the citizens. It's been chaotic. There was an issue. Like, I cook, so I went to the market sometimes 2 weeks ago, and the whole of the goat meat section shut down because they didn't want to take the old Naira note. There was no sensitization. People are. It's chaotic, that's just it. It's a very wrong timing and very unplanned. It's a good idea. I'm a cashless fan. I believe in cashless, but it's just a very, very terrible time to take up such important thing.
What do you think is wrong with the timing? Is it because elections are coming, or are you trying to say that maybe the notice wasn't long enough?
Well, short notice, number one, then I believe there's a little bit political, undertone. Yes. But you shouldn't, because of your political undertone, affect the lives of over 200 million Nigerians. It's so unfair. People are buying Nairas. They are buying their money. They are buying
their own money that
they are buying their money that they have. It's unfair. No. But I'm a cashless fan. Don't forget that. Wow. I believe in cashless policy. I love the fact that we are going to have less cash now, but wrong timing, horrible strategy.
Bad implementation.
Exactly.
Demola, in terms of the political undertones that Simi has mentioned, do you really believe there's political calculations behind this Naira redesign policy, or is it just simply all about moving with the times and trying to adapt to technology, take advantage of technology to make our lives less complicated?
Absolutely. There is a very heavy political undertone, and the reason why I say so is because of the timing of the
implementation.
The implementation one, the fact that we have to return all old Naira notes on a date before the elections. I mean, I have been in other countries where either a currency has been introduced or changed. And I'll give an example. I was in England when the pound note was changed, and the £1 note we used to spend was changed into a coin. And then I think the £20 note was changed, and then the £50 note was introduced. But at no time was there any date by which, if you did not return your money to the bank, it will not cease to be legal tender. I believe till today, there's no time limit. I mean, if you turn up at the Bank of England, which is the central bank, you go to a desk, if you find the old Naira note in your loft or wherever, they'll change it for you and give you the equivalent.
So are you saying that the fact that they put a time limit on it in Nigeria is for political considerations?
There's no doubt in my mind that that is for political considerations. Whilst, I mean, they may claim that they're trying to mop up the Naira, prevent money laundering, etc., etc. I mean, if there are political actors or members of the political class or politicians who they believe are running afoul of the money laundering laws or that they want to use money to influence the elections, then they need to intervene with those persons in other ways that does not affect the ability of citizens to have access to their money, especially in a country like Nigeria, where we have millions of people who are not even literate. They don't understand what is going on. All they know is that they've turned up at their bank, they've demanded their money,
and they can't get it.
And they can't get it. I mean, they don't, how do you go about explaining to them that the bank has not collapsed?
Yes, indeed.
Because that is what is going through their own minds. They never mind what the goodness in the policies, which I actually support, but it's just the way it was implemented. The central bank governor was saying that, at one point, a paper, it was published in the paper that he said there was not enough materials. There was a quick reporter from central bank and from the governor himself. But if that is the case, we believe that the governor, but where is the Naira?
Yes, I hear you. And it's interesting that you would bring that up, because the Council of State met on Friday and they said that they ordered the recirculation of the old notes and printing of new notes, but so far we haven't seen anything and we are still stuck in the same rut.
Again, it shouldn't be last Friday that the Council of State will be saying print Naira notes. They knew they wanted to change the notes, so they should have been printing for weeks on end before the change.
But funny enough, I think I like the idea. If it's going to stop book buying, then we have to bear the sacrifice. We have to bear it. We have to just bear it. If it's for the good of the nation, nothing comes easy.
Well, there's nothing without any pain, but I want to use that to discuss another aspect of the Supreme Court, who has said that Nigerians should stop attacking its judges, its judgments, that what is happening now is that because some of the things they have said lately are deemed to be controversial. Like there have been 2 senatorial candidacies that they have ruled what seems to be unorthodox. And of course, they are intervening in the issue of the Naira redesign policy. A lot of people have been criticizing the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court came out yesterday and said, hey, it is our duty when a matter is brought before us to adjudicate it according to the law. Now, let me ask you, Simi, do you think that in the issues that affect our daily lives, that the Supreme Court should be the one kind of fashioning out the way we live, as opposed to, in democracy, it's the voter who holds the ultimate power. And they say the court is the last hope of the common man. But when the court begins to be the first hope, as opposed to the last hope, how does that affect our own actual democratic power of the ballot?
Well, it's the Nigerian factor. Whatever the Supreme Court comes out with is what we should, bear, because the judges and the politicians, they are at par. They work, I wouldn't say they work hand in hand, but they are friends. So in most cases, I think the outcome of their conclusions, it will always favor them. It will always, it will not be in favor of the common man. That's what I've deduced.
Demola, do you think there's corruption in the judiciary?
Well, some of their judgments makes it appear as if all is not well within the Supreme Court. I don't want to, say more than that. But also, I know that a central bank is supposed to be independent. A central bank is supposed to be independent in policy making and so many other things.
So you don't think the Supreme Court had the jurisdiction to intervene in the matter like it did last week?
Exactly. That is what a school of thought amongst the lawyers is saying, that the central bank does not have the jurisdiction.
The Supreme Court does not have the jurisdiction.
The Supreme Court does not have the jurisdiction to intervene in
CBN matters.
And the example he gave was quite clear, which I thought, oh, wow. He said, if the central bank decides to increase the interest rates, for instance,
can you go to the court
can a few governors
to stop it?
Put themselves together and head to the Supreme Court to say that, look, this high interest rate is affecting businesses or my people in my state, and that the Supreme Court should stop it?
So you think this was a judicial overreach? Even though you're not a lawyer and I'm not a lawyer, the jury is still out on that.
Yes, I think so.
But you make a compelling argument
that
it seems to be that the judiciary is stepping into areas where...
okay, so who is supposed to check the central bank?
Well, the first problem that the Central Bank of Nigeria has and has had for probably generations is that the governor of the central bank is picked from amongst commercial bankers.
Yeah.
But he's answerable only to the president.
Yes, I mean, in more developed countries where they don't have the kind of problems, they have their own problems as well.
Yes.
They don't have the kind of problems that we have. Central bank governors are most of the time economists, not
bankers. And there's a difference in terms of skill sets.
And there's a skill set and understanding of the environment, the economic monetary policy and all the rest. They are not commercial bankers who have interests. Let's talk
about another government entity that's playing a role in this whole fuel scarcity and petrol scarcity issue. We talked about the Supreme Court, the role it has played. Well, the Lagos State government last week rolled out a set of palliatives for the most vulnerable and less privileged people in Lagos by slashing transportation costs by 50% on government-owned buses, ferries, the lag ride taxi system. In addition, the governor has also promised that effective Monday, the 13th, there will be food banks that will supply food to the needy, and there'll also be health relief packages. Is this an example of a responsive government that's being sensitive to the needs of the people? Because what I hear you saying, Simisola, earlier is that the implementation of the timing and the implementation of the Naira redesign policy was not well thought through in terms of the impact it would have on the masses. Yes. So now we see a government taking proactive steps to mitigate the hardship caused by this Naira redesign policy. Do you have kudos for the Lagos State government, or do you have knocks?
Honestly, give it to Lagos State. They are very proactive. I don't know who gives them this, advice, but they are always proactive. When it comes to, I remember festive seasons, they always do slash on the transportation. They do relief packages and all. Lagos State has always done that, and I believe this doesn't have any political undertone, like they want people to vote for them. No,
they just Lagos really care.
Lagos State really cares. People probably, I don't know if foundations have a hand in it, but they are always trying to reach out to the masses to curb the hardship when things like this rises and everything. Lagos State is always, I'm not defending them, but I believe in charity and reaching out to people in need in times of difficulty, and Lagos State has done a good one, and I think other states should emulate. But if it has a political undertone, it's going to end it's going to end in the gallows, because Lagosians, people have made up their minds.
Okay. All right, so Lagos State blazing a trail that others should follow. Demola, let's talk about this Labour Party rally that happened in Lagos over the weekend, and in the process of that rally happening, actually before the rally came, the federal government had announced that all universities should shut down from I think it's February 22nd and close till after the election, citing security concerns. The security concerns are probably on the basis of the fact that the elections are coming. Does this mean they are worrying about violence and possible mayhem? Because that ties into the next issue I wanted to talk about, that there was a Labour Party rally in Lagos over the weekend where hoodlums hijacked it and unleashed mayhem on the campaigners.
Yes.
In fact, one person was allegedly killed, several others were injured. The rally was disrupted completely. So this issue of violence, that the government could be that concerned to shut all the universities and tell all the students to go home, and then we have a very practical example happening right here in Lagos over the weekend. Does that mean that violence is a real and present threat in the upcoming elections, despite all the peace pacts signed by the contestants?
Yes, clearly so, because as you said, a Labour Party rally, thugs appeared from nowhere with guns and machetes, and a number of persons were injured, and allegedly one died.
Do we have any idea where these people came from, who sponsored them? Do we know? What are the police saying? Do we know?
Well, we haven't heard anything much yet from the side of the police, but what we know is that a number of persons were attacked with machetes, and where injuries were inflicted upon them, and interestingly, at a time when this cashless policy implementation and the currency thing has gone wrong or been poorly implemented, and our hospital system wouldn't treat you if you do not have cash to pay. I mean, in the last week or so, I've heard of 2 deaths. One is close to somebody I know.
Because they didn't have cash to pay.
Yeah, yes, because they didn't have cash to pay at the hospital. One was in Kaduna, where a man took his pregnant wife to the hospital, was running around for cash. The hospital refused to commence treatment. The lady, sadly and unfortunately, died. And one, I'm told, was at a hospital in Lagos, a general hospital, which was Lagos State controlled, and where someone was brought in, and the hospital were insisting on payment in cash.
But why can't they take transfers?
The guy said
why
they
can't
didn't
they
have
take
cash.
Transfers?
They were willing to pay by transfer.
Why can't they take?
And the guys kept
Why can't they take transfers?
Insisting on cash, and 3 hours later, the guy that was brought in died.
Okay. The government has already mandated that petrol stations and other retail outlets cannot refuse to take transfers. So why a hospital, which whether private or government owned, would
So it
refuse?
goes back. I've seen this happening even before this cashless policy, where hospitals, people will be rushed in, cardiac arrest, whatever it is, and the hospital will keep on saying that, look, pay before service. And I think the Lagos state government, through its Ministry of Health, and similarly other state governments, need to step in here, because I understand that doctors have what you call a Hippocratic oath, where they must save lives. So, yes. I mean, in this day and age of technology, where, I mean, if someone walks into a hospital, needs treatment, get the IDs of those who brought him in, and the patient. If you need to get their,
exactly,
whatever IDs you need to get off them, so that you can ensure that when the patient has been treated, monies that, I mean, the cost of the treatment can still be retrieved.
Yes, of course.
Once the persons that brought them in and the patient have been identified,
yes,
the monies can be retrieved. We cannot claim to be a giant of Africa and claim to be among the Committee of Nations, and people are dropping dead in hospitals because they don't have cash to pay.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is a disgrace.
Indeed, yes. Simisola, are you worried about violence in the upcoming elections?
I am extremely bothered, because 2 weeks ago, there was a little shootout in my area in Surulere. Like, there was gun battle. We watched it on Twitter.
Yes,
there were shotguns.
Yes.
So this is election isn't here, and they're already
things
fighting.
Like that are happening.
And the party leadership should caution their people. Caution them. Call them to order.
There was a case.
Call them to order. Both the online warriors and the physical warriors. Call both of them to order.
There was a case in Etiosa, which is gone viral now, where Ibale and his cabinet were discussing about how everybody within their community was going to vote for one party.
He threatened them and said anybody who
was
wasn't going
issuing
to vote,
threats.
they will be kicked out of the community.
Yes, was issuing threats that they were going to frustrate their businesses, kick them out of the community, and all sorts of things. These were the things that Mr. President Buhari was talking about that he didn't want to happen. So I think the police needs to get onto these issues and make sure that nobody is able to threaten anyone. And
but you know, the Labour Party started this problem. They started this problem from online. They started this problem bullying people. Once you don't support their candidate, they're going to come for you. Well, they bullied people, and now it's showing physically. It's left online.
Well, I think by and large that all the parties have played a role one way or another. I know that some are more active online, some are more active physically on the terra firma.
On the streets.
All the political parties need to show some restraint. Now, I think it's fair to say that President Buhari is doing everything he can to ensure free and fair elections. But that aspect, I think that free and fair elections, from his perspective, looks more at the process, the beavers, the fact that there's no cash to buy votes and things like that.
Yes.
But the security aspect seems to need a little bit more
attention.
Work. Thank you, Nigeria. It's 12 days to the election from today. That's less than 2 weeks. So, we believe that in the coming days there'll be a lot more political activity. We ask that you all be safe. Those who don't have their PVCs, there's nothing you can really do now since INEC has closed that. But those who have their PVCs, make sure you go out there and make your voice be heard. Thank you for joining us on this episode of What's Your Take. I thank our in-studio guests, our newsreader, our producer, and of course, TV360. We look forward to seeing you again next time.
Our make a chop attitude to governance now what is spoil Nigeria reach today. Refineries of quick fixing. NNPC recently signed an agreement with Daewoo Construction Nigeria Limited for the rehabilitation of the Kaduna refinery in what was described as a proposed quick fix initiative expected to restore the refinery to a minimum of 60% of its capacity by the fourth quarter of 2024 at a cost of $740.6 million. Oh boy, see money. NNPC claimed that the last time this refinery was maintained, or what they call turnaround maintenance, was 15 years ago. Even a same refinery with refining capacity of 110,000 barrels per day has not produced any fuel for years. But we all know recently recorded a loss of 22.9 billion naira in 2021. You are not working, just a chop money. Even though we agree that restoring the Warrior and Kaduna refinery back to its operation will guarantee energy security for the country and reduce our dependence on imported petroleum products, also reduce pressure on forests, guarantee fuel supply, eradicate long queues in our filling station, and end this debate about should there be subsidy or not. But I want to ask, is it quick fix that is needed for a refinery that has not been functional or maintained for 50 years, 15 years, or a complete overhaul, rehabilitation, and revamping? What is the working capacity of the nitrogen plant in Kaduna refinery? At least Warrior we know say not even get. To at least to guarantee preservation of the equipment, since almost all the equipment go down corrode, including the storage tanks and the pipelines within the refinery. Even the power plant in the refinery has not been working. As we all know, say, now PHCN, they power the refinery. When PHCN on their own, they use generator on their own office. Nigeria. our own dear motherland. If you are quick fixing a 110,000 barrel refinery at the cost of $740 million, how much do you need to build an entirely new refinery of such capacity? We like to spend money uselessly here. Is Daewoo a refinery construction or maintenance company where they don't build refinery before, where they don't maintain one before? What happened to the original builders of this refinery? Also, since Kaduna no get seaports that we can use VLCC, large vessels to carry crude to, how NNPC want to transport crude from the Niger Delta to Kaduna if not be pipeline? What is the operational capacity or integrity of this pipeline to determine if they can still carry crude to the refinery? Considering the fact that the pipeline, having been operational for years, would have been corroded by water, insecurity, and vandalism. Was any integrity test conducted on the pipeline? And what is the outcome of this integrity test? What is the value of the contract for repairing, overhauling, revamping, or quick fixing the said pipeline and storage facility, if at all? What alternative means, if any, is NNPC going to use to transport crude from Niger Delta to Kaduna, if not pipeline? Why is Nigeria building gas pipeline to Europe if pipelines are no longer necessary? Anyway, hope this would end up as the case of the Omoku power plant that was built and commissioned by Odili and Obasanjo, if you can remember those days, only for them to discover on the day of commissioning that there was no gas pipeline built and connected to the power plant that will gas the power plant to power it. We even hear say that night they used generator to take commission, and Omoku people sleep for darkness even though they had a power plant. How do you award a contract to quickly fix a refinery when never worked for years to people when never build or repair refinery before? And yet, also no contract to fix the pipelines when we carry crude go the refinery. Would they think at all for this country? Anyway, I hope this quick fix not be last minute cleaning up for some people in government, now. I will therefore advocate that whilst we are debating about the political parties and their candidates, or my thief is better than your thief, we should not lose sight of the facts of the happenings around government ministries, parastatals, and agency. We should consistently scrutinize the activities and seek answers to pertinent questions concerning any contract awarded at this time. As this time usually is a quick cleanup for certain persons. We know quick fix has never fixed anything. So hope they are not quick fixing this money into their pocket. Remember, if you remove your eyes from government activities at this critical time, you'll be shocked to realize after the election that you not only meet an empty treasury, even the treasury box, somebody don't whisk them away. That's all time will permit us to take for today. But for previous episodes, just follow us on all our social media platforms shown on your screen, and there are loads of them there. And like we say in law, you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It will fall like a pack of cards. So even those stealing and destroying our pipelines are part of the general problem of Nigeria. So report pipeline vandalism. See you next week.
Deep inside Ekwe, along the Lagos Lagoon, more than 145 villages are tucked away, far from the bustling city life. Lagos State, a vast expanse of lagoons and creeks with substantial coastal terrain, is both a place of interest and enigma. A beautiful disaster, the seaweed from South America, has taken over the lagoon, stopping life in its tracks. As far as the eye can see, water hyacinths create the sensation of endless green fields peppered with brilliant pink flowers. Women are giving birth depending on nature only, and their children are growing up, waiting for power and education, hoping for the future.
Kò jẹ́ ká jẹun àbá síkì kò jẹ́ ká rìn bí jáde tá olóyún ó máa ń bímọ sínú ọkọ̀ a lè lọ́jọ́ mẹ́ta ká tó gúnlẹ̀ sí tọ́ọ̀kì wàhálà yẹn wá pọ̀ jù àárín bí jẹ àwọn kọ́sítọ́mọ̀ wa tó bá lọ sí ọ̀sà báyìí a máa gbé oúnjẹ lọ fún wọn lọ́hùn ni àárín bí jáde ó dìtẹ́ẹ̀nì wa nílùú àárín bí lọ síbì kankan àdẹ̀rí iṣẹ́ kankan ọ̀sà là ń ṣe iṣẹ́ ọ̀sà là ń ṣe ṣé ti yẹn sìn ọ̀nà mọ́tò yẹn gangan kán wá bá wa ṣe kọ́dà wá bá a la ibi kán apá àkógbèmù kán bá a ṣe títì wa bá ti bá a ṣe títì wa à ní gbádùn.
From Ologbokere to Bodun, Oriba to Ibon. In coastal villages in Ekpe, people urgently need access to healthcare, clean water and sanitation, energy, and the means to ensure their livelihoods.
Omi mímu ó jẹ́ ìṣòro fún wa. Sometimes tá bá máa mu omi àfi ká gbé ọkọ̀ ká cross lọ sí other side láti lọ pọn omi borehole. Kí cross sí other side yẹn máa ń dojú kọ water hyacinth tá bá máa cross. Ìgbà míì ẹnu ọmọ mi lè lọ kó já lo 3 hours ní ìrìn tí ó yẹ kó ju 20 minutes. Tí ilẹ̀ bá ṣú wọn ẹ̀fọn mosquito ló máa jẹ wọ́n tó máa tó wá fa àrùn sí wọn lára. A ò ní hospital tí ìjọba lè fi máa care fún. Ìṣòro ńlá là ń dojú kọ tí àgbàlagbà bá sick, especially tí àwọn obìnrin bá lóyún tán bá máa bímọ. Èmi ọkọ̀ la máa gbé láti bí ká tó dé Ìjìnrìn, èmi àti bímọ sínú ọkọ̀. Èmi ọmọ ẹ̀ á bímọ tán máa bleed tó jẹ́ pé èmi faint ká tó lè dé Ìjìnrìn. Àdẹ̀ tí ìrọ̀gbọ́n dá sí di wákàtí ìjọba náà láyé ń wojú ẹ̀. Àwọn àgbàlagbà wa tán bá ti dàgbà díẹ̀ tí òtútù bá ti mú wọn àti gbé wọn dé hospital náà wàhálà ni. Èmi tó jẹ́ pé ìrìn hospital tí ò jẹ́ kó ju 10 minutes or 15 minutes tó jẹ́ pé òbèlè kenú la máa lò ká tó lè gbé wọn dé hospital. Èmi àti dákẹ́ ká tó dọ̀hún.
Iṣẹ́ ọ̀sà ni ọkọ mi ṣe àdẹ̀ máa ń ẹja yẹn máa lọ ń tà so àwọn ìgbébùnrin tó bá ti ìgbà bíbáyìí ó máa ń wùkú wa àráyè ń jáde a lè lo 3 days 4 days ní ẹ̀yìn bíbá yìí a ní ráyè jáde rárá láti jáde lọ ta àwọn ọjà wa kọ̀ọ̀kan bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣàṣọ ìgbébùnrin yẹn gbogbo wọn iṣẹ́ tá à ń ṣe yìí òun la fi ń ṣiṣẹ́ ń bí la fi ń jẹun so tí gbébùnrin tá bá tún wá ti lọ dẹ wọn kọ̀ọ̀kan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn ó máa ń ba gbogbo iṣẹ́ àwòrán yẹn ó máa ń bàjẹ́ so máa pcc ẹ̀ òun dẹ̀ fi ń manage àfi ń jẹun bí so tá bá dẹ̀ ti pé kọ̀ọ̀kan yẹn bàjẹ́ ṣá àbí kọ̀ọ̀kan bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe gbọdọ̀ sí ìfẹ́fọ̀ àti ẹ̀ máa wá owó láti tún fi lọ fi ra nǹkan ẹ̀mí so àwọn gbébùnrin dẹ̀ máa ń disturb tẹ́ kó máa ń ba ohun kan yẹn jẹ́ tó dẹ̀ máa ń pcc ẹ̀.
Mo jẹ́ ọmọ Ìkòròdú mo wá sí bíbá láti wá ṣe iṣẹ́ apẹja torí wọ́n máa ń pẹja ń lu yìí torí ẹ̀ mo kọ́ṣẹ́ mechanic mo nídìí owó torí pé iṣẹ́ tí mo kọ́ mo fẹ́ ra irinṣẹ́ mo dẹ̀ fẹ́ ṣe freedom torí mo wá sílùú láti wá owó láti wá ṣiṣẹ́ ọ̀sà.
Nǹkan tí mo rí ìbáyìí ni pé bí ìbáyìí bó ṣe wà kò sí iná ń bẹ̀ so school tó dẹ̀ wà bí ìbáyìí náà kẹrì kò tí sí tíṣà púpọ̀ níbẹ̀ kò sí tíṣà púpọ̀ níbí báyìí school tó wà níbí báyìí bẹ́ẹ̀ kẹ́ wọ́n textbook tó máa ń fún wọn ní ìgboro yẹn wọ́n gbé wá sí bíbáyìí fún wọn student wọn ní bíbáyìí kò dé tí wá sí títì kò tún sí omi kò tún sí anything borehole oríṣiríṣi àwọn borehole tó wà ní gbogbo kò sí ní bíbá so nǹkan tó ń tẹ́ wa ní bíbá yìí nìyẹn.
Basic sanitation is absent, since their source of drinking water, the lagoon, also serves as the main conduit for waste disposal.
We need to create a coastal development agency at the level of Lagos State that can look at housing, infrastructure, water supply, health system for these people. We need to make this environment comfortable for these people to live in. Lagos is not just about the central Lagos or metropolitan Lagos. First and foremost, we need a short-term intervention. Government needs to come and reach these people at their health, especially in the area of health challenges, water supply, and schooling. Secondly, as a long term, we need to create a coastal development agency at the level of state to address holistically all the problems encountered by these people.
This project is a call to action to support the sustainable development and human rights of these riverine communities.
Left Nigeria 2016 July, went through Benin to Kano, to Abuja, Abuja to Kano, Kano to Niger. So from Niger we went to Agadez, as Agadez is also part of Niger. So from there we embarked on the journey through the Sahara Desert. We were put on a truck, a very Toyota Hilux. We're like almost 30 on that Hilux. On the normal ground, that Hilux will not size 20 persons, but we're up to 30. We're packed like load, like goods on top of the Hilux. And we spent 4 days on the Sahara Desert. There during the journey was no water. Water got finished, and we had to hold on till we were able to get to Mozouk. Mozouk is a town in Libya, downtown. So from Mozouk, I spent 2 days before I was actually dressed like a lady. Because if you are going in Libya, you have so many checkpoints. The soldiers there, they don't want to see black moving on the street. So because if I enter the taxi as a male to move, they are going to arrest me. So the connection man dressed me as a lady. I had to barb all my beards and my head, makeup, and the hijab. So when we get to the checkpoint, we just look the driver, because the driver is a Libyan man. So we greet the soldiers, they will allow us to pass. That was how I passed through, and I got to Tripoli. From Tripoli, I had to move to seaside, Sabrata, where I will cross. I actually tried to cross October 1st, 2016. That experience was a very ugly experience. During the journey on the high sea, the Mediterranean Sea, I discovered that the boats that we entered was having leakage. So from there, that leakage, the boats stopped, was no longer moving. We spent close to more than 3 hours on the sea. Everybody, you see women crying, you see the children crying, and at the end of the day, some were praying, the Muslims praying, the Christians praying. Then the police, the Libya police, they came to rescue us. They arrested us on that very occasion. I went to the prison. I spent more than 3 months in the prison. So from there, I called my family. They were able to raise money to release me. Well, finally, how I came back to Nigeria, I tried to cross again. So crossing again, I was actually arrested again. And I was taken to Ghanaian. There's a place called Ghanaian. Irregular migration is not worth it. And people, they think that out there the pasture is growing, and it's not true. You, at times when you experience these things, you are not, some persons, they experience these things, they are not normal, they are not the same again. So it's not good for other people to experience what we've experienced.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Many thanks for joining us on News Now. I am Folashade Ogurinde. The presidency has said that neither the federal government nor the Central Bank of Nigeria has taken a stand on the continued use of the 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes as legal tenders, saying that the case is still pending before the Supreme Court. Speaking on Tuesday, the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, said the federal government would make its position on the new naira policy known after the determination of the suit on Wednesday. This comes about 1 week after the Supreme Court, in a ruling on February 8, suspended the CBN's February 10 deadline to halt the use of old naira notes. However, the Supreme Court, responding to an ex parte application filed by the governments of Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states, stopped the CBN from reflecting its ban on the old notes pending the hearing and determination of the case on Wednesday, February the 15th. Meanwhile, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has said it conducted an extensive in-house analysis and consultation and saw a need for the policy to redesign some Nigerian banknotes. Emefiele said this during a brief to the diplomatic community on recent monetary policy decisions of the CBN at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Abuja. While giving reasons for some of the challenges encountered in new naira notes access, it said there was a panic mop-up of notes by politicians, adding that the principal aim with the currency redesign initiative was to make the monetary policy decisions more effective. And now to electoral matters. President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians that the All Progressives Congress APC presidential candidate Bola Tinubu will succeed him as the president of the country. The president was in Owerri, the Imo State capital, on Tuesday for the presidential rally of the APC. Also inaugurated the MCC Urate Road, a project recently completed by the Imo State government. The president also appreciated the massive crowd of supporters who converged at the venue, assuring them that the APC would not only win in the state, but also win the presidency. On his part, the APC standard bearer Bola Tinubu promised to follow in the steps of President Buhari when elected.
We are not seeking the continue to work with the state to eliminate violent crimes and inhumanity to man. I am here, ladies and gentlemen, to thank you very much for exposing yourself to the weather for so long to make sure that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been delivered Party as the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There's nothing more I can say which the chairman of the party and the other members have been mentioned. We are here today. We are very grateful for your turnout. We are very grateful for your support, and God willing, Aswadu is going to be delivered as the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed.
The United States has said that a credible and successful conduct of the 2023 general elections would speak well for Nigeria and its diplomatic relations. Speaking at a meeting with INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu in Abuja, the United States Assistant Secretary of State for Bureau of African Affairs, Molifi, emphasized the importance of the forthcoming general elections to a country, adding that the U.S. is interested in peaceful and credible elections. Fee was accompanied by the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, said she has great confidence in Nigeria's electoral process and believes the forthcoming election will be successful. In his remarks, the INEC chairman, Mahmoud Yakubu, highlighted the readiness of the Commission to conduct the elections, affirming that 12 out of 14 pre-election activities in the schedule have been implemented.
Democracies are an exciting experiment in human governance. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, whether you live in a city or in the countryside, what your religion is, what your nationality is. Every single vote counts, and Nigerians should have confidence in their electoral process thanks to the excellent work of INEC. So we are honored to be here to see you today. We're proud of our contribution in technical assistance to help you meet the challenges of conducting such a large election in such a large and diverse country. And we, like your other international partners, are confident that you will succeed.
We released the timetable and schedule of activities for this election last year, in February 2022. At that time, we identified 14 activities based on the provisions of the law that will have to be implemented leading to the election. And I'm happy to say that out of the 14 activities, we have so far implemented 12 on schedule. Only 2 activities are outstanding. And what are these 2 activities? The last day for campaign by political parties, which will be on Thursday, the 23rd February 2023, and the election day proper, which for the national election, that is presidential and the National Assembly, will hold on the 25th of February, and for state elections, meaning governorship and state houses of assembly, on the 11th of March. So I want to assure and reassure you that we are on the same page in our total commitment to a credible, free and fair process.
The African Union Commission has announced that it will be sending a 90-member observer mission to Nigeria for this month's elections. The African Union Election Observation Mission is being headed by former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. The AU said the objectives of the mission were to provide an accurate and impartial assessment of the electoral process. The AU added that it will offer recommendations for any improvement in future polls to demonstrate AU support towards consolidation of democracy, peace, stability and development in Nigeria. Or still on electoral matters, the Northern Elders Forum said there is no reason to doubt the credibility and capacity of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct free, fair and credible elections on February 25 and March the 11th. Speaking during a television interview on Tuesday, the spokesman of the NEF, Akim Bab belief in the leadership of INEC, said there have been massive improvements in the processes, yet that those against the planned deployment of bimodal voter registration systems, BVers, for the elections should make their reservations known with sufficient proof. The Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, has inaugurated the steering committee of the National Development Plan for 2021 to 2025. Speaking on Tuesday at the inauguration of the 25-man committee at the State House in Abuja, the Vice President said the steering committee was required to provide the necessary policy guidance and leadership for effective and successful implementation of the plan. Yet that the committee was a testament to the determination and commitment of the government to provide the desired political will and leadership for effective implementation of the new National Development Plan. Protests by over 100 frontline anti-corruption civil society organizations over alleged disobedience of court orders and infringement on human rights of Nigerians against the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has continued. The protesters were marched through the streets of Ikeja and converged on the at the Lagos State House of Assembly. Alleged that the EFCC had resorted to cheap blackmail to divert the thinking of the public away from its lawlessness. Spokesperson for the Transparency and Accountability Group, Ayodeji Ologun, disclosed that the CSO leaders will submit a petition on biased disobedience of court orders and the politicization of the EFCC to the National Assembly through the Speaker of the State Assembly.
We are saying that EU must come to equity, must come with clean hands. Oh, yes. If Bawa uses the instrumentality of office to take people before courts of jurisdiction for conviction, and people obey such conviction of the court, if the court has also found him guilty of one offense or the other, he should honorably obey the court ruling. Nobody in the land is bigger than the law.
And all we are just saying is that Bawa just have to excuse from the office currently occupying. He that must come for equity must come with clean hand. And what do we mean by that? If Bawa as a person or as somebody occupying a position in this government that claims to be of corruption free, and he has been committed to prison by competent court of justice, and he has disobeyed such court orders, I think he's not fit to occupy this position he's occupying today.
Honorably, he should resign and go. He should leave the office. He is found guilty of corruption. He has also found some people guilty before and they were sent to jail. So him too, he is found guilty. He should honorably resign. He is not above the law. He is not bigger than the law. The law is bigger than him. All we want is Bawa should go.
We are not deterred to the extent that as long as there is disobedience to the rule of law, we will continue to make this demand. And you see, it's the biggest form of corruption. You cannot be fighting corruption while at the same time you are so disobedient. And you see, very laughable when this man sits in the comfort of his office and he says they have obeyed, the decisions of the court. Why you have never at once been seen to obey such. And this is just a recipe for anarchy, because you cannot govern an institution that is so democratic, or that should be so democratic, and begin to operate as an autocrat, like one man who is an island, who has, as if you are running a private enterprise.
While still in Lagos, the outgoing Commissioner of Police in the state, Abiodun Alabi, has handed over to the newly appointed Principal Staff Officer to the Inspector General of Police, Idowu Owohunwa, at the Lagos State Police Command in Ikeja. In his brief remarks, Alabi said the new CP is coming in with a wide range of experience, adding that he was handing over to a dedicated and hardworking officer. Speaking at the signing and handing over ceremony, the newly appointed CP, Owohunwa, commented on the efforts of the outgoing CP works of his predecessor and called for support to exercise franchise during elections without compromise.
Today marks the end of my tenure as the 37th Commissioner of Police of Lagos State Command, with a great sense of professional fulfillment. It has been a full year of policing the most cosmopolitan and populous city in West Africa. There is no doubt that we had some security challenges, of which we were able to surmount to the glory of God. It gives me a great joy to note that during my tour of duty at the Lagos State Police Command, there was no major security challenge that led to a serious crisis. We were able to bring crime to the barest minimum and dealt a big blow to traffic robbery, especially with the state-sanctioned ban on use of motorcycles in certain local governments of the state and strategic motorized patrol in identified areas during the peak traffic hours. I honestly urge all negotiants and the press to accord the new Commissioner of Police, my very good friend, my comrade in the force, CP Idowu, maximum support in the discharge of his duty of piloting the affairs of safety and security of lives and properties in Lagos State.
As I assume the leadership mandate at the Center of Excellence on this day, I shall optimally leverage on these strengths in my vision to positively change the policing narratives in the state. Towards this goal, I assure that I will draw my professional experience and deploy all society strategy towards upscaling operational standards of policing in all aspects. This will involve the deployment of citizens' engagement strategy, intelligence-driven tools, and strategic approaches to crime prevention, detection, and prosecution. Of course, the outgoing CP has made this easy for me because the framework which I will build on has already been established.
We'll take a break now and be back with more stories, to stay with us.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social